All right, random question, lads, because it has been playing on my mind for a while. Have any of you ever heard of Fair and Lovely?
Yeah.
Yes, man.
All
Growing up,
day.
anyone ever heard of
Yes.
Fair and Lovely? And anyone ever used it or heard family use it and it made a thing of like, oh yeah, Gora Chitta Ban.
But I know family members using it.
But
Not
I've been
immediate
one of them.
family members,
I've been a victim of that, and it kind of
You
sets us
used
up.
it.
100%. Yeah. I'll tell you. Let me set up the scene. So this kind of leads us into the perfect topic, and that's colorism. And I was one of those kids at an early age where I found that within my family anyway, within like the relatives, etc., wider family even, generally everyone being fair-skinned was seen as being special, and Fair and Lovely being from the Punjabi community or wherever, India, was basically the thing to use as like, oh, and getting props for being fairer and being Gora Chitta. You must have heard it. Come on, it can't,
Yeah, of course.
be the
We all
only
have this
one.
in Punjabi songs. It's in everything.
Like
it's
being
part of
special, right? That
our
you're
culture.
Gora Chitta.
You definitely hear people talking about that, and you definitely hear your own families talking about being Gora Chitta, but the actual using these products, that was alien to me, bro, straight up.
But there was
Yeah,
actually.
I used it.
You used it.
Yeah, the actual. cream, right?
Hands up, 100%, because it was the thing, and it was like, I'll be 100% honest. I used it up until the age of 13.
Wait, did it work though? Did it actually work? So, because you're proper.
At the age of
Am I
13,
looking at-
I went to Punjab when I went to Punjab at the age of about, I think 11, 12. That's when we went to Punjab, and that's when we basically I got introduced to it, and we bought a bunch of those creams back, Fair and Lovely creams back.
Mad.
And
Bro.
I
That's
used them for
mad.
about a year, and then I used it for about a year, and yeah, 100%, bro. I put my hands up because
But on your face or all over your body? Where you like?
just the face, bro. It was just the face.
What?
just
Who cares
face
about
cream.
the body?
No,
Who
I
cares
don't know,
about
but imagine he turns up, yeah, and his face is still like pretty dark, or like the other way around, and like, you wouldn't know what
It's
to make
mad
of it.
though. It's mad how for decades in India it was a thing that was just considered normal. I remember growing up, and obviously my dad's from Bombay. When we used to go to Bombay, it was just normal there. Where using Fair and the way it was advertised, there was no sort of colorism connotation at all. It wasn't seen as being offensive or derogatory in any shape or form. It was almost like, the darker your skin, the
It's
less proud
accepted.
you should be. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not sure how much that's changed in India. I wouldn't know how to answer that, to be honest.
You say India, I'll be honest, I still hear it here today.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gone away, to be honest.
Like, I fall
yeah.
foul of that. I still fall foul of those, like, oh, kinna gora chitta. Like when my son was born, bro, straight away, like, the first thing I was like, oh, look how gora chitta is. So dumb. But it rubs off on you. Like, what does that have to do with anything? If he came out a little darker, like, why is that a thing? I don't know. It's just one of those things that you automatically think, oh yeah, he's better gora chitta.
But why do you think that? Where do you think that originates from? Like, where has that come into your psyche for you to think when your son's born that Mundas Gora Chitta? And you obviously felt a sense of pride, I take it. Like, you felt good. You felt good about it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. There was that, and it is obviously like wrong. But I don't know. It's just obviously the community we grow up in, right? The community we've grown up in. It's kind of been always said, even in songs.
Yeah. But then songs are part of culture, right? Like, I'm sure we briefly spoke about this side, but it does come from the British rule. It's as simple. I don't think you can deny or not use that as a main factor. Like, British rule, the British Raj.
I think it's even further. I think it goes way further.
No, but you got to look. What I mean by that is that the British Raj goes back, like, when the East India Company first.
It goes way now, but that goes, bruv. This is like 2,000, 3,000 year old.
4,000 years ago.
You really think?
100%, yeah.
When those first people cross from Central Asia, and you get this one group like of the Aryans that start going into East they go to the west, so they're the people who populate Iran and Persia, and over towards Turkey. And then you get these people who come east and they head in towards Punjab and places like that. Their interactions, their exchange takes place with like groups that were natural there. I might be saying it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a group known as the Dravidians. And these people were like indigenous to the territory. They're very close in complexion to like Aboriginals. And that's why you still get this such a wide range in Hindustan, because you could be from any part of the bloodstock. And the thing that's quite funny is it mixes even then over the centuries, because from 4,000 years ago to like 2,000 years ago, that's a huge chunk of time where things changed and people mixed and didn't mix, and other groups migrate in. And then, of course, you come to like 1,000 years ago when the Ghaznavids invade. And when Ghaznavids invade, like they bring, and then the Mughals, they bring all of this sorch with them too, because they're very light-skinned, coming from the Middle East and from, again, Persia and those areas. So and then where I think you're right, Dav, is the British really like they help establish it and accentuate it. Up until then, it's there though. You can't deny it, man.
But it's there. But from what you're saying though, it's based on divide and conquer. So those that conquered Mughals, any sort of empire that was seen as someone that could take over this establishment, can take over this country, were this just seen as a higher power. It just so happened that their complexion was lighter. And that's what I mean. Like the same happened with the British Empire. They conquered India, or established their place in India, and then conquered from within with the East India Company. But essentially it was that fact that the psyche of culturally and of the local people is that, oh, these guys have taken us over, therefore they're superior. Just so happens their complexion's white, therefore they must be the better race.
Where I think we got to have a bit, like we certainly probably all need to read a little bit more, me included, is where you say it just so happens they were lighter skinned. Because really what we're talking about, like 4,000 years ago, is settlements, like irrigation canals and urban civilization coming into being. Now that doesn't necessarily, now in the modern world and up until like now, over the last 4,000 years, that's meant progress, if you like, for people to settle, establish, build, take us out of the Bronze Age basically and move us up to where we are today. But that doesn't mean that the people who were there before, I want to say something better than hunter-gatherers, but the people who still weren't like in settlements and civil, like that kind of urbanites, that doesn't mean they were uncivilized or they didn't have something to offer or certain amounts of knowledge. It's the same as like you look now in Australia, right? Like the Aboriginals have got huge amounts of awareness, wisdom and knowledge that the rest of the world doesn't have, right? And it's exactly what you said, Dav. That's the bit that gets accentuated by people when they conquer, because it's seen as like, oh, these people are cleverer and brighter, and they happen to be light-skinned. The bit that I'm saying is it's not about happening to be light-skinned. It's just that's the most populist way, so everyone assumes that must be the best way, but it's not necessarily the case. People had so much knowledge and awareness who were Aboriginal or who were in the area, indigenous to the area, before light-skinned invaders come through.
Well, but even if I go back to the British Empire, they didn't technically invade at all. The way they infiltrated into India was sort of economically, like through business, and very as a very sophisticated way, because the Mughals in India looked down upon the British. They didn't want anything to do with them because they didn't think they were as civilized at all. Like they weren't, if you really read into it. Like, and I'm not as well read as you are, Harvey, on this topic, but from what I've read so far,
you're banging on the money. Yeah, banging on the money.
The difference is the British were just very clever in that they had a lot to lose in England because the stock price, etc., was really suffering, and the only way they could do it is learn from how the Dutch did it. And because the Dutch conquered a lot more than the British ever did, it just so happens that dual India was just an untouched country. Like no one had tried to infiltrate it as much, and it just so happens that the East India Company took full advantage and got in, and then worked its way through the port, etc.
What I also think what helped was this idea of white is better was already firmly established at that time when the British came. So them playing their politics, they were basically already treated more serious. So what I'm trying to say, even if they had the same conniving methods, but let's say they were African tradespeople coming into India, I'm telling you, they would have not got the same reception.
No,
they wouldn't have
disagree.
got the same reception
Disagree,
as
bro.
the British did, because the caste system and stuff was already there established. White is already seen by Brahmins that's basically people with wisdom. So when a white person comes in, yeah, they might be European, they are seen as people with wisdom, and they're basically are given a seat at the table and taken more seriously. If that same person, 100%, if that same person came into India,
the British weren't taken seriously though. They weren't. They got dismissed for about 25 years before they infiltrated. The East India Company did not invade straight away. It took them a long time to bow down to the Mughals, to say we are worthy to trade.
They never really invade. That's
exactly. They didn't.
They don't invade. They just make they'd spent 400-500 years with an established, about as established as you can be, where they were able to think over generations, learn, strategize, and work out what to do. They also had the 100-year war with France, which taught them a hell of a lot. And by the time they get coming into South Asia, suddenly it's like, okay, just stand back, put this one against this one, and then in this place, just stay quiet, just watch them all kill each other.
There's notes. There's notes in a diary to say I need more than 10 years because I need to convince this Mughal that we are worthy of trading. Not even we're going to invade, just to trade through the port. But the reason why I disagree, Sahib, is that my opinion on it is that the whole colourism thing isn't seen from the higher people in society. It's the normal person. To look at Mughals and these emperors and the rulers of their land who have just been overthrown by a white person, as a normal person, you're thinking, shit, this guy's just taken over. They must be more powerful because we thought this guy was the ruler of our land, and all of a sudden now this guy's come along and is ruling our land. And
yeah, so what's the similarity? They're both light in skin color.
No, but that's what I was disagreeing with is if a black man came over and Africans came over and invaded, the psyche would still be this person has just invaded our country and is now ruling, therefore they must be more powerful than us. That's what I'm getting at.
Caste is so strong. Even if a dark person right now in India becomes powerful, caste, because of the way they look, they are not going to be seen as powerful and are not going to give them the table. They might have power in the face of it, but it's trust me, man. When I went to South India, it blew my mind when I went to some of the mandirs there. The way they treat you for the way you look in terms of your skin color, and that's not down to a white person. It's being a Brahmin, which is basically being light-skinned, and that comes from way before the British. Like I went to a temple when I went to Bangalore. And it was Brahmin only mandir. You literally, Punjab doesn't really have that anymore. It's like where we're from, we're not used to that type of caste system. It's watered down. Like we have our own little bickerings about Jat Khan and this little stuff. It's like so watered down. But out there, when I went there, it blew my mind. We pretended, we were like, yeah, see Brahmin, let us in. And the only reason this bandit at the gate, I'm not joking. The only reason he let us in is because of the way we look, because everyone else in South India is dark skinned and only the Brahmins look like us, like as in we look like the light-skinned version. So he believed us. He was like, yeah, you can come into the mandir. So we went into the mandir and had a little look. And that's what I'm trying to say. He gave us a seat at the table because of the way we look. If a dark person came, as smart as they might have been, this Brahmin wouldn't have even given them a chance to actually make their point and play politics or be smart and take over. That's what I'm trying to say. The British were smart, and 100% everything that you're saying after that is valid, but they were given a seat because that system already respected whiteness before the British came.
But don't you think it's fun? Don't you think it's funny that entire principle you've just like espoused that actually exists today, even for white people, because
Yeah.
the paler, the whiter you are, the less respect you get. They all want a shade or a tone. That's
Yeah.
why we got tanning salons like 2 free to the high.
This
street,
country's
right?
completely opposite. It's true. This
Yeah.
country's completely opposite. You go into Boots, you go into Superdrug, it's all about tanning.
Tanning.
Every-
Yeah.
So
yeah.
haven't they got?
Guys-
But haven't they got the same principle that you don't want to be
Yeah.
on the extremes? You don't want to be
Yeah.
really pale-faced white and pink. You
Yeah.
don't want to be really, really dark. You got to be somewhere in the middle that makes you look this coffee-colored cream brown. Now,
Yeah.
why? Leaving aside historical accounts, like of how we got to that, what do you reckon is in our psyche now in the 21st century that makes people think that that's the ideal place to be?
I think, like Vijay said, I just think it is literally like how families and as a child or whoever, like when you listen to your elders, you just inherit some of these things from their psyche, and subconsciously you say things without even, like Vijay said when he had his son, like you just subconsciously say things, and suddenly the only difference is that he questioned, why am I saying this? Whereas generations prior probably didn't question it because it's considered the norm. Whereas
Yeah.
now the dialogue and narrative is a lot more open. It's a much more open table for discussion, and so therefore we question everything we do and everything we think, even down to traditions and stuff.
But
Because it is
because
jokes.
it's not just an Asian issue though.
Yeah,
Black
it's
people
not.
have the same
It's not,
Same.
issues
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
community, and like we live continents apart, but somehow they still have the same issue. And even today, like if you listen to their lyrics, if you listen to a lot of we've all heard people, rappers, whatever, talking about in interviews, they'll still talk about light skinned girl, lighty.
Yeah.
So they still have the same psyche, and I still can't pin why it's like that. But there's obviously this narrow like spectrum of if you look this type of shade is perfect. Somehow that's accepted.
I mean, it's weird that it's still here now, right? I mean, people might be more aware of it or talking about it more, but clearly it's still here. And like when I got married like 13 years ago, one of the first things that was said to me, like by other people, was like he's a little bit darker than she is. And then throughout our marriage, just as bants, like you would say stuff like if I wanted to wind her up, I'll say something like and blah 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 and stuff like that. I didn't even think I was that darker shade than her, right? But people were picking up on that. That was a weird one for me, right? Like I don't know.
But I think in our culture it goes even. But do you not think in our culture
normally the girl gets it a lot?
Exactly what I was about to say is this: it goes one beyond in that it becomes sexist, because when it comes to marriage, it's generally, it doesn't matter if what kind of shade the boy is. It's more down to the girl, and it makes it even worse in terms of culturally how
like you can be whatever color you want, Harvey, but your wife couldn't be darker than you.
Yeah.
Get that. But I'm saying I think it's funny that I got next level turned over with people winding me up about it. They weren't even saying it as a joke. They used some auntie saying, Harwinder, tu thora pakka hai ho, nalo. And I was like, so what did you say? Like, when's that even a thing? But obviously we've all grown up hearing about it, right? Like in my family, like my dad's really much darker than my mum. And whenever it would be said, like as a joke, obviously, like, it wouldn't be taken seriously very, very quickly, because, you don't want to get a thappa from dad, or, you don't want to piss off dad. So it's not going to happen. You're right. If the role was reversed, female would get it in the neck. So like you said, not only is this got some elements of caste attached to it in our community, but it definitely has misogyny attached to it as well. I think I'd be more interested to hear like how much this might have come up for you guys, like with potential people you were meeting, or when you're at uni, people cracking jokes. I'll put my hands up and say, with people I know really, really, really well, like going back decades, we might crack jokes about someone being like darka tu jada pakka hai, or tera tu ta kala rang da hai, or tu gore rang da hai, and say they're coconut. So you crack those jokes, but generally you tend not to say stuff like that. I don't know if that's because everyone in England is the same colour or what.
It's never ever bothered me at all in the slightest. But at the same time, I don't know. Do you reckon it will ever change? Do you think our generation or the next generation will see it differently, or would we just like make the conscious effort not to
VJ's
sort
proof
of-
of that, man. VJ's proof of that because
No, but what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying here. I don't think VJ would allow his son to view it like that because he's already
Yeah.
questioned himself.
Yeah, so that's where I'd like to try and change it. So I was reading this article on it where a black woman was basically consciously putting for her kid, she was showing her blackness, like what blackness is, and that's not a lighter skinned version. That's black people. She was showing books with like black people in the darker shades, so she appreciated what she was, and that's the worst thing about it. Like you almost, I've not had the issue because I'm not really dark, but other people that possibly are darker in our community, there's stigma around it, and people must feel like, oh, I'm dark, and that's why they use fair and lovely. Like, how bad is that? You're not allowed to appreciate how you look because the community has somehow turned this into a negative.
They must feel like
it's crazy.
They must feel like they get it in the neck. And it's interesting you brought up like black people, because if you look at black people, they had this problem, I think, much worse than we have at the present time and over the last 100 years. And I never even realized till I was like, even now, like 10, 15 years ago, I started realizing it was a problem. When I was growing up, the black people we saw were like Frank Bruno, really dark-skinned black guy, big role model, right, boxer.
Yeah.
And then it was Tony Yeboah, a striker for Leeds United.
Sick goal.
And then it was people like the mum on Fresh Prince, right? Vivian on Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
These were three really black people. I never noticed. And when you got older, you suddenly realize, oh man, whenever they can, like in picture books for little kids or in magazines or on TV and movies, they cast the lighter skinned people more than they do the darker skinned people.
Yeah.
And
the representation is still not, but you only got to look at our community. You look at Bollywood or even Punjabi films.
Oh man.
The complexion goes that far that you would never see someone of a darker shade casted. And so the representation was never there. And that's why people with a darker shade of skin in our community never could accept or feel good about themselves because there was no one there to represent them in essence. It's only when you see someone like yourself that you feel comfortable.
But I'm not sure white people think that way. I'm not sure white people look at Asians or look at black people and think, oh, he's a lot darker than him. Or
I think they do.
Do you think?
They do, 100%.
You think, so he's like...
Have you ever experienced racism though, Vijay?
Huh? Yeah. I've experienced racism, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's been that bad.
Then.
Yeah, but do they look at... No, I'm talking about, do they look at the shades within a certain race? They just see black and they see white, they see Asian and they see white, but do you think they see a blacker version of black and a lighter version of black? Like,
they do.
Do you think? Right, okay.
I think that's why Will Smith is palatable, and that's why...
more accepted.
Yeah, he was more accepted than... Sorry, my mind's going blank, but who was his partner in Bad Boys?
Martin Lawrence.
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence had his own show. He had a platform. He just wasn't as big as Fresh Prince.
No. Okay, so yeah, this is going off on some weird Chappelle theory stuff, but Martin Lawrence got turned over by Hollywood. Right?
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence was not allowed to get to where he was. He then had to check himself in for mental health reasons and blah all this stuff. That should not have happened to Martin Lawrence, but it did. Same thing happened to oh man, my mind's going really blank. The guy from Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Arsenio
Hall. Arsenio Hall was the same thing. The more dark fucker you were getting turned over by Hollywood. You get your own show, but it would be on sideline TV screens. And they were white executive producers that were doing that. So they would be happier promoting the lighter skinned person. But like you said, with Asians, we can see it as well. You triggered something for me a minute ago, Dad. I just wanted to ask what you guys thought. Did you ever see colorism in Bhangra teams? Because from a comp point of view, I did. I'd always know which people, but when I'd see the team turn up, I knew which people were not going to be red, Geordie, right? I blatantly am telling you, there's bare colorism in Bhangra teams. There was.
Really?
Go back and watch the videos.
Not enough. I think hand on heart, our team didn't even ever look at that. In terms of who Belly Geordie would be.
What about other teams? Because
our Belly Geordie was based on height. The two shortest people would be.
But what are you talking about? The sickest dancers, you mean?
You lot a legit team, but I'm thinking think wider. You've all judged comps. Think about the university teams. Think about mixed. You got boys and girls, right? When was the last time you remember seeing one of the darkest complexion dancers being up front and being like head jodi?
I don't remember
I
any
don't
people
think-
in the Bhangra industry,
Yeah,
if I'm honest. But
I'm with
you
Vijay.
might be
Yeah,
right. You might be right. You might be right.
Yeah, I
Vijay.
haven't really paid
I-
attention.
I didn't pay attention to it.
But the
I'm
good
gonna
thing is,
I'm gonna do some
all
research.
three of us haven't noticed that, which is good. In the sense that, like,
If I
well,
can
that makes
prove
you look bad, actually. But
No,
yeah,
it does. No.
like that.
It does. It means I might be wrong, which is fair enough. But if I go back, check the stuff that I saw while it was happening, and if I find out no, it didn't happen, I've just got it in my head, then that says a lot about me and what I was seeing in my head, right? But if I find it, then it's a pretty damning indictment that nobody else was noticing this. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the number one thing that happens in a Bhangra team is you going based on talent and dancing. But like other things do have something to do with it, particularly when you got a male-female Geordie and they're doing things like Nakra, do you look the right part? Height was a huge part of it. But I'm telling you, I noticed colorism stuff happening there too.
I can imagine. I can imagine, like, subconsciously it is happening. Like I said, like, even with myself, when I was making certain remarks, and I sometimes I still do. I'll still sometimes say stuff like that. Oh, look how good he is, or stuff like that. But I don't even. I obviously must mean it in the sense that, oh, that's a good thing. Even though if I think deeply about it, if it was a darker skinned baby, okay, I may not give. Yeah, I mean, that's how bad is that? Like, it's not a compliment to say, "Oh, look how nice and dark your baby is." Like,
yeah.
Like, if I said that, someone would take offense to it. So it's crazy how we've been born to think.
It's weird. Yeah, you're right. It's weird
you're
how,
lucky
like, saying Gora Chitta is a compliment.
Yeah,
Like, and the same, and even if you meant it as a compliment on the opposite way, it would never be taken
it
as a
wouldn't be taken like
compliment.
that. Yeah,
Can you imagine saying to someone, "Hai tu kinna kala hai?" And
Yeah.
like you trying to convince someone that was a compliment.
Yeah,
exactly.
Have you ever
Exactly.
found that people get boosted? I found that in Punjabi communities that they get boosted if you don't look Punjabi. You look like you could pass. Oh, you look like you could be an Arab, or you look like you could be Greek, or you look Italian.
Yeah.
And then when you hear that, everyone's like, "Oh, is it? I look Italian."
Yeah.
Like automatically
had
you
that
think
couple
you're
of
better
times.
than a Punjabi, and I genuinely had that for quite a while, and I was like, totally against that now. When I have like people who are really fair in my family, and they'll be like, yeah, they get so boosted saying, "Oh, someone thought I was from Cyprus." And like they got so boosted, and I was like, "Yo, man!" Like it hit me, and I was like, "Nah, like I'm proud to be Punjabi." And that's when I like, obviously going back to that fair and lovely stuff. There came a time where I was actually happy to be tanned. I started going out. I don't care. Like if I get a tan on holiday, I wouldn't shy away. I'm telling you, 100% colorism a thing in our community. People are afraid to get into the sun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I gotta be in the shade. I gotta be in the shade. Or even if they go on a beach holiday, be like, I gotta be in the shade.
I'll take it one step further. I remember at uni, and I don't know why this stuck with me, because before then I grew up in Hounslow, big up West London. Then I moved to Bedford, and in my teens I was in Bedford, which was majority Gordon. There was about 2-3 up in my school. Then obviously we went to uni in Leicester, and I remember my first year in MV. Obviously, big up MV back then. Bhangra teams playing. I was at the bar waiting. A guy was there, but on the side, and he goes, "Nah, don't worry, brother. I got your drink." He got me a drink, and he said cheers and goes, "Jatia," and I was like, "Giza, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I ain't Ja." And he goes, "Yes, you are." And I was like, "No, I'm not." He goes, "You look Ja, you're Ja." And I was like, "What?" And I was like turning around. I was like, "What does that mean?" And he basically meant it based on my complexion that I look Ja because I'm slightly lighter skinned. And I was like, that was the first time I encountered it from someone in our generation, and where even the caste thing became part of colorism, because it was almost seen as like, if you're fairer skinned, you must be a Jat. And I was
You did it on the back of your complexion. But what
completely.
What Sahib saying and what you're saying like goes back to what you said earlier, Dab. There's this Eurocentric viewpoint that has embedded itself all over the world, thanks to the Dutch and the British and the French and the Belgians all invading the rest of the world and taking over it. And that Eurocentrism is kind of here to stay for a few generations at least. I think.
Do you not think that's mad that an 18-year-old,
yeah,
an 18-year-old not only knew about caste and knew the hierarchy? I'm doing air quotes for those listening, but the hierarchy of what how the Punjabi community view casteism. But
do you know what's
also
okay? Do you know
how
what's
color gets in your shade of skin gets involved in that hierarchy of caste? That's mad.
Yeah. But I've got to throw a spanner in the works, because this is the problem with Punjab's caste, right? Punjab caste systems aren't actually part of the caste system. Caste system is like Brahmin, Khatri, Shudra, and we all fit into that. All of us pretty much fall into Shudra,
the one category,
status, right? There's some weirdos that start telling you like, no, Jats form part of the Khatri movement. No, they don't. You don't understand the tribal backgrounds. Then you need to look into that a little bit. But the weird thing is, like, where we grew up in North Hearts, not that far from where you were a teen in Bedford, everyone, if you were Chitte Rang there, right? Because there weren't that many non-Punjabi Sikhs around the town, right? The first thing they'd assume is you must be Bamman or Bamani. And the second, if you were really Chitte Rang, they would assume you were Tarkhan or Tarkhani. Because most of the Jats in Irons are from Doaba, and all of them are really Pakke Rang. And it was just like, so what I'm saying is, like, it's weird you had that. We had the opposite experience in our local area. But the exact same thing you said, I find people experience at university or when you went to big cities. And in big cities, people would judge you based on whether you had a slender nose.
Yeah.
I've had someone say to me,
but that's why I was judged because of my nose, bro. Like, what the hell?
Someone once argued with me.
Can you believe I got told that? You must be judged. Look at your nose.
Your nose. So someone once argued with me in my mid-20s. So this is like social media stuff. Someone in central London at this big, like, kind of film fair thing we'd gone to. Like, he was another Punjabi, and so there weren't many of us brown people walking around. And he came over to me and he asked my name, and he saw it on my name tag, and he goes, your name must be like Munde or Mandir. And I was like, no, it's Mandir. And he goes, no, it must be like Munde and stuff like that. And I was like, no, it's Mandir. And he goes like, yeah, but bruv, like, you know, he actually pointed to my nose. And he said, like, your nose ain't like a tikka nak. And I was like, I've never met you before in my life. And you're just here ripping on my nose. Like, I've got a bit of a bent nose and it's really big and long, man. Thank you, Lena. And then he was just like, no, really, is it Mandir? You're really a Mandir. Where's Mandir from then? What is it? What background is it? And by then I'd taken Amrit. So I was telling people, like, I'm a Khalsa, I don't have a caste. And so, like, you know, that always used to scare the living daylights out of me when I'd say, look, I'm a Khalsa, man. That's all we do. We're straight up sons of Guru Gobind Singh and Mata Sahib Kaur. So, yeah, I ain't got no Baradari. I gave that up when I took Amrit. And there's very few people who then say to you, oh, what caste were you before that then?
Yeah.
Does it? But I was shocked. Like you said, the nose thing. So you had that dab when someone said to you,
imagine, like, I was pretty uneducated in this because I was at school and there was only 3 other upbringing and we didn't really go that deep into it. It was just, you're Indian, I'm Indian, we're Punjabi sick. Like, we've got another Punjabi in our year. Whereas Sahib would have had a completely different school experience. But so for me, it was Indian. Like, but it's mad that for me, but I don't even know if I should shout this out on the podcast, but Sahib, like, you had the same, like, you can't deny it, but when you saw a picture of my dad, like, your assumption was the same as that, in that you thought we were from a Jat family. And that's funny because that is just
Sahib,
the
way
psyche.
too quiet. Sahib, way too quiet.
No. But it's a good. Obviously, everyone needs to understand everyone's opinions and thoughts and stuff changes over the years. I'm talking about 13 years ago when we were at university. But it's weird that because when you're that age, you just hear things and you just assume, okay, if someone's neck is this sort of shape or their skin color is this sort of shape, they must be from this sort of caste. And it's mad how in university I find 18 to 21-year-olds focus on it way more than any other age group. It just became, do you come on, boys, like at uni, caste and color was such a big deal.
Number one.
But it's weird, in a weird way, to play into, to just explain Dav's point as well. The fact I thought that was also to do my perception here of the Khans were people from Africa.
Yeah.
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 So it wasn't just because I looked at Dav and Dav's dad. It was more so because they happen to be obviously not from Africa. They're not Dugus. They're from the Punjab. So for me, that then automatically, I've never met the Khans that were from Punjab. So the way they speak, the mannerisms, the culture was basically how I see it as Punjabi, right? So then to me, it's like, yeah, he's got to be judged then.
What's weird
Because
is-
if he was the Khan, his dad would be wearing a Dugu pag and would be talking about Kisu and Panu and all that sort of stuff, yeah? And he didn't do that.
What's really strange is the people who came out of East Africa who all have that style, just because the vast majority of them were Turkan, it doesn't actually mean that all of them were.
Yeah, there was actually Jats from Kenya
Who
as
look
well.
like that? They who look
Yeah.
My
like
Nana is from Kenya. My Nana is from Kenya and had the Dugu pag.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Bro,
go.
yeah, bro, it's true. Even like in my family, some of them went to East Africa. So yeah, it was. But yeah, I get what Sahib's saying. The perception is that, and it's so true. When you go to uni, bro, growing up, like yeah, most of mine was in Croydon, and then after that was in Kent. And in Kent, it was just all good. No one spoke about being Punjabi or Indian or whatever. But the way people it was mainly Jat people talking about being Jat. That's all I ever really heard. Like no one really went around saying I'm Turkan, I'm sick. You know what I mean? Or like whatever other caste. So it's mainly Judge people talking about it. But before that, I'd never even like heard it that much. Obviously,
same.
tracks in like tracks and stuff, but not
I think-
people like engaging with you over a caste topic.
Yeah,
think
that was the
re-entry-
thing I found absolutely wild, is that your friend circle or engagement, whether you're going to be friends with someone or even converse with someone based on their caste. Like I remember some of the boys in Filbert Village, bruv, where they would base whether they would chill with you or not based on your caste. Like, what is that even like? When you
But
look
then-
back, you just think about how mad it was. As now you know, we're more mature and we understand and we question things, but back then we were just as naive as they were. I'm not gonna lie, I had a slight insecurity being at uni because I was like, shit, every single one of my Punjabi friends I'm literally, even now, I'm the only Turkan out of all of my friend circles.
Which is so
Everyone
weird.
is a
In
Jat.
my friend circle,
Everyone
it's
is
the
a
total
Jat.
opposite. In my local home circle, it's the total opposite. I'm like, everyone happens to be from the Khan background, then there's me like one of two Jats, but it's weird.
But isn't
I
it
think
crazy
it'd
though,
be-
Sahib, how you probably didn't feel insecure about it? You were probably proud, and I felt insecure about it and not as proud.
Yeah, it could be. I've never.
And that's
yeah,
mad.
Yeah, the fact. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I've never felt. I didn't necessarily feel proud, but it never came across my mind. Put it that way. I never. I never really thought about it.
I think imagine the conversation we're having for people who are dark skinned, regardless of what caste they are. But
Yeah.
obviously there's people from the supposed lower caste you get that would be darker skinned. The weird thing that we found was that actually our complexions tended, like again, growing up in North Arts, but also in our bend back in Punjab, right on like within Fagwara now, like the people who are Jat tend to be darker skinned than people who are from other castes and supposedly lower castes. And one of the crazy things, like loads of them have got colored eyes, which whether you've got a dark complexion or not, suddenly makes you seem a little bit more lighter and more model featured, if you like, even if you ain't that pretty. So I think region to region, it makes a big difference as well. I think geographically it makes a difference. And I think the fun thing to note is going to be now that we're all getting lighter skinned. I mean, us, because we're in such a cold country where you only get like what? Stop for like the sun came out yesterday and I saw somebody wandering around without their t-shirts on and I was like, the Gordon started early this year. Like, no, seriously, there's one person just walking around without a t-shirt on, and it was like, it's because they know you don't know how many weeks of sun you're actually going to get in this cold country, right? That's why it's so rubbish here, because it's so cold all the bloody time. We wouldn't be here if we weren't earning money and building lives for ourselves.
Yes.
You're not here for the sunshine because there ain't none. So as we're all slowly losing our complexions, right, and we're slowly getting lighter skin, that question you had earlier, I think it's going to make things worse for generations going forward. And then there's all these other factors you got to throw into that, like culturally so far removed from Punjab. But then if you take people who aren't even from Punjab, so culturally far removed from their religious beliefs or their backgrounds and stuff like that, it's all these other factors at play. But I think the complexion one's going to be huge. It's like why now you see loads of Sengs, if they go on holiday or even if they go out in the sun here, they all want to go Nanga Ser. And it's because they don't want to have the Patka line or the 50 line. Bro, I've never given a damn about the Patka line or 50 line. I was like at 19 at uni with this giant line here. Someone, like some Gore kid, like was like, because I was only around Gore at uni, but they were like, oh man, look, you got like a tan. Is that a tan line? I was like, yeah. Like I didn't understand what the big deal was. But even now, when someone was saying like, oh, you got a Patka line, I'm like, yeah. I don't understand what the big deal is.
What? Like even
tan line, man.
Even when I've been on holiday and like I've got darker, I don't even mind that I've got darker. But I'll be honest, there's been times where I've come back and like after a few weeks, my color hasn't quite come back, and I'll be like, "Mummy, mera rang hi nahi aaya wapas."
Get out of fair and lovely.
Yeah, I swear. And then it's true. When I look back at it now, what is wrong with me? That's actually a dumb comment to make.
Yeah, you're thinking it because it's there. But do you know what, Vijay, I'm not kidding when I say it. In Western Europe, particularly the United Kingdom and the Nordic countries, you ain't gonna stay dark for long. You're gonna turn paler and paler. 500 years from now, this see generations from our offspring, even if they keep marrying only other Punjabi kids, which is a big if. But even if they did that, 500 years from now, I'm pretty sure they'd mostly look like bloody Boris Johnson does. Because that's what this country's going to do to you. It's going to change your pigmentation. It's going to change your complexion.
Give them a hairbrush at least, though, isn't it?
Kange are all going to disappear as well as the complexions, right? But then this is all fun and games, like talking about it. For some people, I'm guessing this is real serious. Where you feel like a piece of shit because you are darker skinned and nobody wants to, like, you're the butt of jokes, or when you're being introduced to people just turn you away immediately before, they just looked at a photo or something, like on shadi.com or wherever. That must be painful. That must be painful shit.
Yeah, and it also makes you aggressive as well to a certain extent, as in, there'll probably be people that are gonna lash out over it, like go the other way of, even if they embrace, let's say they embrace the fact that whatever their color is, if someone was to say anything, it'll be straight aggression. They'll combat that with aggression because they feel suppressed, and then rather than combat it with a conversation to actually maybe change someone's mind, I don't think people very often will do that. They'll just get aggressive and be like, it'll turn into an altercation with people. I don't know. That's what I feel.
Well, let's hope we're moving towards a world where people have more conversations like we just did, bring highlight to it and start saying, well, how do we work this out? How do we change our viewpoints? How do we stop ourselves thinking, man, I got really dark 6 weeks ago coming back from holiday. How do I change that now?
That's so bad. That's so bad. But
No, but at least you're open and honest about it, because how else are you going to change it? If you keep regressing that feeling, repressing that feeling, and you don't open up to it, you're not going to awaken yourself to, why am I thinking like that?
It's mad because it is subconscious. It's subconscious, but it's obviously there. But
we leaving that there? Cool.